Today I'm going to be showing you two different ways to make a classic caipirinha. Before we dive into how to make the cocktail, let's first talk about what it is. So a caipirinha is the most popular and most famous cocktail to ever come out of Brazil. It is internationally famous and it is drank all over the world, and it is one of the most delicious and one of my personal favorite cocktails. The caipirinha is a very, very easy cocktail. It is only 3 ingredients. It's sugar, limes, and cachaça. And so anybody can make this at home. You don't need anything fancy to do it. All you need is a good bottle of cachaça, a lime, and some sugar. I like to say that a caipirinha is to cachaça what a margarita is to tequila. It is the perfect vehicle for that spirit, and it just really brings out the best elements of cachaça, the same way that a margarita brings out the best elements of a tequila. All right, guys, enough talking. Let's get into making these cocktails. The first way that I'm gonna show you how to make it is the more traditional, and some people would say the only way to make a caipirinha. And then I'm gonna show you the second way that we make it here at our bar, because I just like it this way better. I think it's a little bit more balanced. I think it's faster to make. And we just like to show off 2 different ways to make the same cocktail that is equally delicious no matter which way you do it. But all right, let's jump into making the cocktail the more traditional way. So we're gonna grab our cocktail glass. We're going to be building the drink right in here. We won't be using a shaker or anything like that. So honestly, you can make this at home and you don't really need to worry about it. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna do 1 sugar cube, or if you have a teaspoon of sugar, it's about equivalent. I'm gonna use these because I have them and I like them. And the next thing we're gonna do is 4 lime quarters, or some people would say a half of a lime cut up into 4ths. And so we're gonna put that right there, and we're just gonna muddle this all together. And now the reason that people say that this is the only way and the better way to make a caipirinha is that by mashing up the limes, you introduce the oils from the skin into the cocktail, all while integrating it with the sugar. And some people say that makes it taste better. And now we're gonna grab our cachaça. I like to use ipioca. It's a nice, easy drinking cachaça, not too expensive. You can find this, or at least around us here in Massachusetts, about for 20 bucks a bottle. It won't break the bank, and it's absolutely delicious, super versatile. So we're gonna measure out about, and I should say this actually, regular caipirinhas, if you find them in most places in Brazil, they're not really measured. They're usually, like I said, a little bit of sugar, half of a lime cut up, muddled up, and then you fill up the glass with cachaça and ice. It's not the most measured recipe, and it's one of the reasons why I actually prefer the way that we do it a little bit better. But I'm not saying I dislike this. This is fantastic. So we're gonna do about 3 ounces, just because that's what's gonna fill up the glass. And then we're gonna fill it up with ice, mix it up a little bit, and drink. All right. And like I said, you really don't need much. The drink's pretty much already mixed in. You could mix it up just to chill it down a little bit. Try not to make a mess with your ice cubes the way I did. And yeah, we're just gonna mix that up a tiny bit. And we are good to go. So, that is delicious. A little spirit forward. So another reason why I tend to prefer the other way that we make it, it has a little bit of a stronger cachaça flavor in this one, which is great if you love cachaça. But if you want a more easy drinking cocktail, I highly recommend the other way that we do it. It's a little tart, a little acidic. It really helps to blend the cachaça's vegetal notes with it. Fantastic, fantastic cocktail. But we're gonna set that aside. I'm gonna show you guys the way that we make the caipirinha here at our restaurant. It is by far our best-selling cocktail. And honestly, the reason we don't make it the traditional way is that it would just take too long. If we had to make it the traditional way for every single one of our guests, I would be back here for hours on hours and no one would ever get their drink. So we make it this way. It still has the same concept, except I find this to actually be a step up in terms of a cocktail recipe. So we're gonna grab our shaker. We're gonna I had already squeezed some limes earlier and have some fresh lime juice. We are going to do 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. We are going to do 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. And we are going to do 1.5 ounces of our delicious, delicious cachaça. And then we're gonna add our ice, and we're gonna shake this bad boy. Now you don't wanna shake too long, but just enough to get it nice and chilled, frosted on the outside. I'm gonna pop that open. We're gonna grab our glass here. And I'm gonna do a step here that it's not required. I just do it because it's reminiscent of the way that a classic caipirinha looks, but I'm also extra, so don't blame me. So we're gonna grab one of our handy little lime quarters. You know what, we're gonna do 2. We'll do 2 lime quarters. We're gonna mix this up. That way we're still getting some of those oils that people love to talk about. And then we are going to pour our cocktail right in. It brings it up to the top. And then, sorry, one more extra step on my part that I love, even if it does seem a little extra, is I like to do a little bit of a lime zest on top of the cocktail. That way you really, really get some of those oils and get that lime zest flavor in there. And there you go. Taste that one before we put it down. Oh yeah, I find that to be much better, much more balanced. The reason I prefer to use simple syrup versus the raw sugar is that there's no little bitty sugar crystals in there. It's already completely dissolved. And shaking it and aerating it really brings everything together and adds a nice lightness to the cocktail. I know it sounds like I'm bullshitting you, but it genuinely is what it tastes like. And quite frankly, this to me is the better version of the caipirinha. It still has all the same things as the traditional one, but I still find it to be a little bit better. All right, let's look at these two side by side. I mean, as you can kind of tell, I'm not gonna go too far. As you can kind of tell, the modern way, or the way that we do it at the restaurant, is I guess a little bit cloudier because it's a little bit more aerated. It was shaken rather than the more traditional one. I guess it's because there was more fresh lime juice completely in this one. It ends up having a bit of a cloudier color. But I'll be honest with you, they both taste similar. I would just say that the traditional one is a little bit harsher, a little bit stronger. Some people may like it that way, and that's perfectly fine. I would enjoy it that way myself, but in terms of serving it in a restaurant or serving it for friends, I highly recommend this way because it's more well-balanced, especially for a lot of people who aren't super familiar with cachaça. This is a great entry point into the spirit, and there's just so much more fun that you can have after that. Thank you again, and we'll catch you in the next one. Now it's time to drink.